to ask me anything about politics. This is the show where you can ask anything that you like about politics, and we will answer it. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. I know it can feel like trying to learn a new language. So, this is the show where you can ask all of those questions, and no one's going to make fun of you, no one's going to roast you, no one's going to call you uninformed or a fascist or a cuck. It is just going to be good faith answers to all of your good faith questions. So if you got any questions about politics whatsoever, just throw them in the chat and we will get to answering them. What's up, D. Scott? Great to see you again. Everybody is welcome here, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in between, or something on the outskirts. This is not a show for fighting. This is not a show for roasting. This is not a show for debating. There's no name calling here. Nobody gets owned. It is just good faith answers to all of your good faith questions. So put your cues in the chat and we will get to answering them. There's a lot of misinformation and propaganda out there that is trying to convince you to vote a certain way or behave a certain way. And so this is the show where we can all figure out together what's accurate information and what is bunk. So just go ahead and throw your questions in the chat and we will get to answering them. Awesome Sauce says, did you hear about the preschool teacher arrested mid-news interview after bad-mouthing Trump? I did. I saw that video, and that is completely fucking bananas to me. Like, what was the message that they were trying to send to her? What did she do exactly that made those cops so upset that they had to arrest her on some bullshit charges? Like, it's unfucking believable, man. Like that. This is the sort of shit that should upset every single American, regardless of if you are left, right, or center. You know, it is a massive violation of our First Amendment rights. So yeah, excellent first question. Thank you, Awesome Sauce, for being here. And anybody else got any questions about politics, just throw them in the chat. Everybody is welcome here, Republican, Democrats, everything in the middle and on the outskirts. Chicken Tender says, what about the Somalis stealing billions of dollars for Minnesota to buy cars and mansions and yachts? So first of all, I don't think that there are any Somali immigrants that are driving fancy cars and living in mansions and yachts. This is an immigrant community, a diaspora that they're just trying to, live their lives. The lady who orchestrated that whole fraud scheme was a white lady, so I don't really understand why we're calling it the Somali fraud case, Chicken Tender. Did you know that? Did you know that the person who's in charge is a white lady who's already in jail? Kuro says, have you spoke about the recent ICE incident in Minnesota? No, I don't know what the recent ICE incident in Minnesota is, Kuro. John Abbott, great to see you again, says, any thoughts on Tucker Carlson saying that Trump's real reason for abducting Maduro might be to give Venezuela gay marriage? Tucker Carlson is a liar and a con artist, so he's going to try to turn this quagmire that Donald Trump started in Venezuela into somehow being the fault of the left and somehow being the fault of progressive politics. It's stupid. He's a liar, etc. All right. D. Scott says a journalist was shot by ICE in Minnesota. Are they okay? Are they still with us? Diddy Sisson says, do you think the lady was in the wrong today? Are you talking about the lady who defrauded the COVID funds in Minnesota? Did he? Let's see here. Kuro says, I don't know how to type it for TikTok, but with a pew pew. Bert's great to see you again. Says, hey, there was a shooting involving ICE agents, which the attacker was fatally shot. God damn, that's so fucking infuriating. Jesus fucking. I'm learning about this right now, guys, and yeah, and I'm really curious how people on the right are going to react to this. Like, do you care that an American journalist was shot and killed by ICE agents? Do people on the right believe that the ends justify the means? Is this okay for you? What justice do you think is good in this situation? Okay, Bert says, I said the attacker rammed into them. Yeah, but they're liars. Diddy Sisson says she tried to run them down with her car. Diddy Sisson, I am starting to think that you might not be here in good faith. So just a warning, you are about to get booted. It's on video. All right, congratulations, you're out of here. Goodbye. All right, Jason Wenner says, watch the video. She was trying to drive away. Accurate. Progresso MX says, nope, I was here in Minnesota. Don't know what that means. Scott says, watch the video. Unlike Ashley Babbitt, she was trying to hurt the police. I don't buy that at all. Scott, ask a question or you're going to get booted. Dempsey Goodno says, I wish people would have been as upset about Ashley Babbitt. I think there's a really big difference. Ashley Babbitt was trying to invade a secure location in the Capitol where half of our government was hiding from the insurrectionists. So I think that it was a justifiable shooting. I mean, obviously, I would prefer someone be shot not in the neck so that they can, stand trial. But 100%, she was threatening the lives of our government. She was warned by Capitol Police not to proceed. She kept on proceeding. So it was 100% a clean shot. It was just, yeah. I hope that when law enforcement is doing things like that they are doing it in a way that does not cause death to human beings. Scott says they invited people in on January 6th. That's a lie. So you're just going to go ahead and get out of here. Jason Wenner says there are multiple videos of this. This woman was not a threat to those men. Jason, again, I'm learning about this for the first time here on the live stream, but all the people who I don't trust are saying the opposite. So what you're saying sounds pretty accurate to me. Alejandro Abadi says, guess you don't try to run down ICE. She wasn't trying to run down ICE. Boy, oh boy, the misinformation trolls are out in force today. Scrolling down, Cage of the Wicked says, Babbitt was justifiably shot by police. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I just think that maybe, hopefully they, at least tried not to hit her in the neck, tried not to murder her. Okay, user a bunch of numbers says Babbitt was not justifiably shot. There's a lot of statements happening in my chat right now. And so for everybody, you need to transition into asking questions because otherwise I'm going to start booting people left and right for trying to spread misinformation. Bobby's Truth says, you use your car as a weapon. No, I don't. Enzo says, what's your opinion on what's going on in Venezuela? The Trump administration has created a quagmire that is going to erupt in violence. The best case scenario for Venezuela after what Trump did is that nothing changes. Because Maduro's VP is now in charge of Venezuela and she has the exact same connections to the drug traffickers and the military and shit like that. I think it is unlike, the best case scenario is that nothing changes. And so America is going to have to spend a shit ton of money to try to extract that oil if the VP is cool with that, and potentially she is. But yeah, there's potentially going to be power struggles and violence and, gangs. And it's bad news. Okay, Sinric Stream says, did you see the ICE shooting yet? I have not seen the video of it. I just learned about it here today. JP says, when is your special dropping? My special is dropping on January 31st. Link in my bio for anybody that wants to mark their calendars and see my standard special dropping on January 31st. Okay, John Abbott says, the camera angle of the public video is from behind the car, so those who want to see it that way can argue that she missed by inches. But as the vehicle continues to move, you can see he was far enough away that he had his arm fully extended as he fired and was not in contact with the car. So he was at least a few feet from the vehicle. John Abbott, thank you so much for that clarity. I very much appreciate that. So now we have even more information for all the people who said that she was trying to murder an ICE agent with a car. Y'all are spreading misinformation either on purpose or by accident. So I'm just going to say, please stop or I'm going to boot you. Okay, Paco says, release the files. I agree with that. Driska says, there was another angle posted recently. Have you seen it? Does it confirm or deny what we are already talking about, Triska? Victor Poulin says, let's not forget that he was never actually run over, but a woman was shot in the face. Accurate as hell. Bert says, what do you think of Trump's speech yesterday at the Kennedy Center? So I didn't watch the whole thing. It's, it's the same old psychotic shit from the clips that I have heard of him rambling and making really inappropriate jokes and incriminating himself and going back on things he said purposefully, previously. So yeah, it's the same old shit. Brian Nagy says, will the Trump administration annex Greenland? They're going to try. And whether or not they get away with it is completely up to us and potentially NATO. Okay. Hello, I'm scared. Says our mayor held a press conference and literally said the dead person was criminal. I don't know what you're referring to. Hello, I'm scared. Kuro says, is it possible to explain the Greenland and NATO stuff realistically? Could U.S. do all this stuff? So there's a difference between can we get away with it and are we legally allowed to do it? Because the answer to legally allowed to is absolutely not. We are not allowed to do it. We are not allowed to do it based on international law. We are not allowed to do it based on our alliances with other NATO nations. We are not allowed to do it based on American law because Trump does not have congressional approval to start annexing other countries. Whether they can get away with it is an entirely different story. Like Greenland and Denmark by themselves do not have the military capacity to stop America from annexing Greenland. But potentially, if all of the NATO nations band together against America, maybe they would have a shot. I think every analyst will probably tell you that even against every NATO country, America will probably still be victorious in any kind of incursion. I think it's probably unlikely that NATO will try to go to war with America over Greenland, so it's kind of a moot point there. The thing that I think the best chance of stopping Trump from doing this is if we protest and strike and boycott and put pressure on our elected representatives to pass some legislation to stop him from doing this. Yeah, that's my guess there. Okay, hope that answered that for you. What's up, Coach Ahmed? Kingston, great to see you again. Ilmoth says, why do you say Trump administration, the feds only reflects on what we want / deserve, regardless of which party is in power? I disagree with that, Ilmoth. You often, I feel, are making this both sides argument that I do not agree with, because the Democratic Party is leagues better in every respect to the Republican Party as far as like accountability, transparency, oversight, actually legislating for the people as opposed to just the billionaires. So unless you have something specific you want to, get into, you can miss me with that both sides stuff. All right, let's see here. Zay Miruka says, what is the update on that president guy who Trump kidnapped? So far as I know, him and his wife are still awaiting trial in a prison in New York. I did hear recently that one of the indictments was just thrown out, that Maduro was the head of a drug cartel, and it was thrown out because we discovered that the Trump administration completely made that up, that was a lie, and it doesn't hold up in court, and there are consequences to saying lies in court, so they just decided to drop that indictment. So just another piece of the puzzle for everybody wondering if Trump is a lying piece of shit, and his administration is as well. Let's do. Josh says, "Do you celebrate National Spaghetti Day on January 6th?" I did not know that January 6th was National Spaghetti Day. Kingston, I will get to that last comment in a second. Let me get back into some of these TikTok comments. Dark Deplorable says he didn't kidnap them. He got nailed for narco-terrorism. Yes, but we do not have any sort of justification for invading a sovereign nation and stealing their head of state just because we have decided that they have committed a crime. It's against international law. It is against American law. Dark Deplorable. So I do not consider what they did, a lawful arrest. It was basically a kidnapping. Enzo says, have you heard that Trump is threatening to invade Mexico, Cuba, and Colombia? I have heard that. Bert says, ICE agents were denied hotel stays at a Hilton in Minnesota. Thoughts? I think that every corporation that exists in America right now is under incredible pressure to basically work with the Trump administration and all their various branches to accomplish their nefarious goals. And I think that we should be supporting every company that has the balls to actually stand up to them. And so, yeah, I think they did a great job. I don't know where they stand right now, if they have succumbed to pressure from the Trump administration to force them to rent rooms to ICE. But 100%, I think every corporation is morally responsible for standing up to the Trump administration, even if it means hurting their bottom line. And I know that's a big ask in the capitalist hellscape that we are currently residing in. We should do what we can to support them and, put pressure on them to not acquiesce without a fight. Jay Moore says they folded and are dismissing the hotel that didn't comply. Well, that's upsetting. Beaverino says thoughts that invading in Venezuela due to China not using dollars to buy oil, upending the finance industry. Doesn't seem to track for me, Beaverino. It's possible. I'm not saying no, but it really just seems like this is something they wanted to do, so they did it. They wanted to use taxpayer dollars so that billionaires can get richer by stealing Venezuela's oil. They wanted to show that we're this really strong, powerful nation that can do whatever the fuck we want with zero consequences. Marco Rubio wants to topple Cuba, and he feels like this is part of that. So, they want to distract from the e-files. There's a lot of motivations that I think are probably more top of mind for Trump and his acolytes than doing anything regarding China or global finance. Carpeta says, how cooked is Taiwan from 0 to 10? I'm going to give it like a 7 or an 8. Z says, you think there's no value to show of power? In this moment, in this specific situation, no, I do not believe so. America has shown its power for decades. We have shown the world that we are the powerful military, we are the powerful economy, we are in control, we are in charge, you can't do shit to us. And so, yeah, I don't believe it was necessary to do this. I think that Trump wanted to show that it wasn't just the American military that was a big, strong, tough guy that does whatever he wants. He wanted to say, like, no, I am big and strong and tough. Daniel the Fourth says, fuck Nicolas Maduro. Yeah, sure, I don't like him. Z says, but don't you think you need to maintain that image? I don't. I think that the value of America right now is in showing how we can be a reliable world partner, both for peace and trade. I think that we have done so much during the 2 Trump administrations to ruin our reputation abroad that right now, alliances that were holding together global peace are now being fractured. And there's no, the things that we can gain, that America can gain by these shows of power, we've gained them already. And we have been losing so much more in exchange. So yeah, I don't buy that. Let's see here. Scoop says, couldn't Europe put sanctions on the U.S. and cripple us over Greenland? I don't believe they can, but I don't know if it would have the effect that it would need to actually affect the Trump administration. Like, I don't think that Trump is already doing so much damage to our trade relationships in Europe that any sanctions would just be, playing with house money, basically. It's just like, oh yeah, more of the same, Ooh, ready. Let's see here. Josh says, sent you a link on Insta about National Spaghetti Day. I unfortunately didn't see it. Kingston says, I've decided to leave America in 27. I'm going back home to Ecuador. America is under dictatorship. I can't say, but do you think America would be worth returning to in the future, or will it depend on who the president is? I mean, I am never going to tell somebody that the right move is either to stay or go or come back later. That's a very personal decision. My wife and I have discussed leaving because we're a little worried. I am obviously not in the Trump camp, and so I could potentially be a target depending on, if I ever get big enough to, for them to notice me. But we've decided instead to fight instead. And so, I'm not, yeah, it's a bummer that I feel like that you feel like you have to do this to protect yourself. And yeah, that's just part one of many reasons why I think that people should be standing up to Trump and the Republican Party. Okay, Triska says, do you think any other country would defend itself from the U.S. given our military capability? Yeah, definitely. I think that every nuclear power has the threat of nuclear weapons to use to deter American invasion, which is another reason why this new global order that Trump and Putin are trying to instill is bad, because it is just incentivizing countries to get nuclear weapons so that America doesn't try to invade them. And, shit like that. So we should not be working towards a world that has more nuclear weapons. We should be trying to move to a world with fewer nuclear weapons and where fewer nations have nuclear weapons. And instead, now we're just saying, like, get nuclear weapons or you could be next on the chopping block. Don Bellinger says, sure, we have plenty of weaknesses, mostly leadership. Not really sure what you're referring to there. Aiden Show Chat says, do you think radical Muslims and radical Somali will lead to the downfall of America? No, I think the bigger danger is radical Christians. Tony BZ says Trump already making America great again. That is not a question, so you're getting blocked. I don't care if you have different political opinions than me, but ask a question, be part of the conversation. The OG Big DVD says, I love when non-military people make opinions on military action. I'm not talking about the military. I am talking about law. I am talking about precedent. I am talking about politics. Okay, Daniel says Maduro was a brutal, illegitimate dictator, but that doesn't give Trump the right to do those things. Yeah, I completely agree with that, but also it's dumb. It was a dumb thing to do. It was irresponsible. It was a waste of taxpayer dollars. It is creating a bigger problem than existed before. And now, who the fuck knows what's going to happen in the future? Are there going to be weird factions that spread up? We are already seeing that the Maduro regime, still in place, is now doing violence against people just so that they can clamp down any idea that Maduro getting kidnapped has created weakness within the regime. So this has already made the situation, the humanitarian situation, worse for the Venezuelans. In addition to it potentially devolving into more chaos and financial, commitment by America. We're so intent on getting the oil out of there, but that's going to require American military members to go in there and protect the oil fields and protect the oil refineries. Yeah, it's a bad idea. Bad idea all around. Ilmoth says, your thoughts on the 2 days old ex-Russian president's threat to kidnap the German chancellor? Do you think Russia can do it, and will they? I don't. I haven't heard anything about that, Ilmoth. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes Russia seems very capable, and sometimes they don't. So yeah, I'm gonna say that's a little over my head, unfortunately. Okay, Super Mario says Trump never joined military. That is accurate. Old Liberal says, do we need their oil, or was it a move to stop China and Russia? I don't think we need their oil. I don't think that anywhere in the top 10 of motivations for for doing this. I don't think that Russia and China are in the top 10 at all. I think much more likely that Trump just wanted his billionaire buddies to get richer. And it's not about needing oil, it's about them wanting more money. Scoob says, do you think Trump's actions and lack of response from Congress could cause a civil war in the US? No, I remain skeptical that a civil war is likely in the near future in America. Old Liberal says, then how is it about oil? It's about oil because fossil fuel billionaires want that oil so that they can sell it here and abroad so that they can be even richer. Right. Daniel says, not helping the Democratic opposition over Nobel Prize jealousy is the cherry on top. Not helping the Democratic opposition over Nobel Prize jealousy is the cherry on top. I'm not really sure what that sentence means. Mila Mayhem says, isn't their oil bad, meaning no oil company wants it? I believe that the only issue with oil companies going in there and extracting is they would need some sort of protection from other people that don't want them extracting that oil. And so, yeah, I don't know if there's something about the quality of the oil. I do also remember reading in an article that we have not been able to confirm how much oil is there, and that it's an open question if Maduro was full of shit when he was talking about how much oil they have. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of things that could potentially go tits up in this situation. Right. Daniel says Trump not helping the Democratic opposition Machado over Nobel Prize jealousy is yes. That is 100% accurate, Daniel. Yeah, it's so fucking stupid. It's just I'm having Three Stooges syndrome where there's so many stupid things about this that they're having trouble all coming out of my mouth at the same time. Agwai says quality of the equipment and credibility. That tracks for me. Mike Left says, how many times has the president done what Trump just did? It's a good question, Mike, because there have been plenty of times that Americans have done regime change or kidnapped another world leader. And, I'm not 100% sure how many of those track perfectly with this. I think Noriega is probably the best analogy as far as like, not having congressional approval, not being informed beforehand. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure. There are similarities. I don't know, you know, which ones are the closest, is what I would say. Kimberlina says, I'm learning how to respond because I deal with similar personality with my 4-year-old. That's very funny. Phil says, we did this in Libya. That was Gaddafi, right? Yeah, I honestly, I kind of forget the specifics around Gaddafi. Chris says, don't need congressional approval executing an international warrant. Yes, you do. Because America does not have legal justification to just execute international warrants using the American military. That is not a thing. That's not part of legal justification. Josh says, what are your thoughts on Trump? I don't have enough negative things to say about Trump. Like, there aren't enough negative words in the dictionary for me to fully describe my feelings about Trump. Incompetent, liar, con man, grifter, thief, narcissist, psychopath. Yeah, it's all the negative words. Words. Dr. Pluribus says, didn't need to tell Congress about this. I mean, legally he did, 100%. Whitey said, he's ignoring me. No, I'm not. I didn't see your question. John says, sure, they're all completely based on reality. Sure, they're all completely based on reality. Don't know what that's referring to. Dark Saturn says, if NATO collapses because of the seizure of Greenland, what would happen to European safety? I mean, my guess is that they would just, continue being aligned with each other against Russian aggression, just without America. John Ogiba says, you don't have enough negative things to say. Sure, they're all completely based on reality. They are. John, do you believe that there's anything that I have said against Trump that is... Oh, so you say, have the Democrats done for you that you fall in line? I am not at all affiliated with Democratic Party leadership or anything like that. I'm a registered Democrat. I'm a progressive Democrat, but I don't get paid by them to come out here and talk to you guys about politics. I do it because there's too much misinformation out there, and people need to have accurate information. John says, yeah, you lied right from the beginning. When I first landed on this page, they had a warrant. Well, congratulations, John. You're not asking questions, so you're out of here. I don't care if you have different political opinions than me, but actually ask a question, be part of the conversation. And Triska and Muzz King, thank you for helping me reach my first gift goal of the day. Okay, Todd Owen says he's a liberal fair left. I think you mean far left. And some people believe that I'm far left, and some people believe that I'm a democratic centrist corporate stooge. So, it seems like bullshit from all directions, in my opinion. Josh says, how long have you studied politics? About 15 years, I would say. 312 says, thoughts on the ICE shooting today? I'm really curious if America gives a shit. I think the people who are already pissed at ICE are going to be pissed at ICE. But I think that the people who want to believe that ICE was justified in that shooting are going to think that they were justified in that shooting. And I think that the work continues, because I don't think that we should just wait for social media to put the correct information out there for people to have their minds changed. It is going to be up to us to remind people that this is a lawless organization. This is a Trump's private Gestapo that is operating with zero oversight and accountability. And if you just happen to be driving by a couple of ICE people, you might get shot in the face as well. So, there but for the grace of God go I. First they came for the women in cars, and I said nothing because I was not that woman in car. Insert your poetic reference or Bible verse here about why this is a shitty thing. D. Scott and Triska, thank you for helping me reach my second gift goal of the day. Haka K says, I think people should give ICE supporters the same treatment. Well, I don't condone any kind of violence at all, so I'm pretty sure that was kind of what you were getting at there, and I do not condone that kind of language. The Great Depression says, did you see Trump wanting to overturn the Third Amendment of quartering soldiers? I have not seen that. That is obviously concerning. Dark Saturn says, thoughts on the situation between China and Taiwan? I think it is probably likely that China will use this Maduro incident as justification for, annexing Taiwan. That's my guess. Alrighty, and thank you to everybody who helped me reach my third gift goal of the day. Ilmoth says, I just agree with that. ICE is complying with the DOJ, or did I miss something not Gestapo like at all? I do not see ICE, what do you call it? I do not see ICE, you know, adhering to directives by the DOJ. Guess what, guys? It is finger hearts o'clock. The Great Depression says he doesn't want hotels to turn away ICE, hence the Third Amendment. Oh, interesting. Stormwriter says, I have both left and right views. Will there be time where actual discussions will happen again? I mean, this is what the show is for, Stormwriter. We don't do fights here. We don't do debates or trying to own people. And so I'm happy that you're here and part of the discussion. So why do you? What are some of your right wing views, and do you believe that the Republican Party is fulfilling those for you? All right, good lord, the you guys are being really sweet with helping me reach my gift goals today. D. Scott, Triska, and Tink. Thank you so much for helping me reach my first finger hearts goal of the day. Okay, Alexander says you don't condone violence, but what happens when peace isn't enough? That is it's a good question. I guess my answer to that would be that I'm sure that those scenarios exist. But if you look at the historical record, you see that nonviolent protest movements are significantly more successful than violent ones. And so, yeah, if we're dealing with this in a vacuum, I would still always put my money on nonviolent resistance over violent resistance. So yeah. Let's see here. Shiny Flybright says, so I've been doing the work. I've gotten other people to call to. My Democratic rep refuses to speak out. That's fucking infuriating. But then again, you've got something to fight, at least, Shawnee. So now you have a person that you can be putting very specific political pressure on to actually do something, to, use their power, use their voice, use the platform that they have to potentially change things. Triska, John, V, Tink, L, thank you for helping reach my second finger hearts goal of the day. Dennis Camacho says, why Trump is not imprisoned after being named a PDF? The reason why is, so I don't know what information has come out in the files that are specifically incriminating. As far as I can tell, it's only circumstantial evidence right now. But the reason why he hasn't faced any kind of accountability for all of his various crimes, including those, is because the people that are currently in charge of the job of accountability for the president are all in the same political party as the president. They're all Republicans. And for some reason, the Republican Party believes that if the president is of the same party as you, then they don't have to worry about actually following the laws, and they can act with impunity, and they can just do whatever the fuck they want, regardless of zero consequences. I don't believe that is, aligned with the whole fucking point of the American government. There's supposed to be checks and balances and oversight and accountability. And if the president who is in your party does something impeachable, then you impeach them, regardless of if they are doing things that you like or not. It's just one of a billion reasons why I don't think people should be voting for Republicans anytime in the near future. Like, you need to be able to trust that politicians are going to go after their own if those people do crimes. Alrighty, Enzo. So something to understand is why Maduro in handcuffs, but not Trump. He has 34 felonies. Again, it's because the Republican Party has been shielding him for like a decade. Okay, Ilma says ICE doesn't adhere to the DOJ's protocols. Last week, DOJ sued California for unmasking ICE agents. Also, what's your alternative for ICE? They need to arrest illegals to deport. Do you not support that? So the thing I don't support about ICE is the fact that they are operating illegally and barbarically. They are ignoring people's due process. They are detaining people without actually, accusing them of anything. They are deporting people who are here legally. They have the largest budget of any law enforcement agency in America, larger than the military of Italy. And you're saying that they do adhere to the DOJ's protocols, but I am reading every day stories about ICE doing things that are illegal. So, I'm not really sure what you mean about that. The issue is, part of the issue, Ilmoth, is that they have this quota of deporting this number of people every single month. And that means that they are rounding up people who do not deserve to be deported or rounded up. And that's stupid, in my opinion. It is, in my opinion, stupid that they have created this artificial quota for themselves to reach. That means that they are going to be hurting people who are here legally, or American citizens, or veterans who have devoted themselves to this country, who have put their life on the line to defend this country. And we just decided that we're going to let ICE hold them in detention facilities for an entire week. People are missing their children's birthdays. They're missing the birth of their children. And for what? So that Stephen Miller doesn't yell at them because they're not hitting their quotas? It's fucking disgusting. Right. Ooh, Stat says only U.S. politics. That's my specialty. So if you ask me, a different country, I might be able to answer, but probably not. Tishy says ICE just shot a lady in the head in Minnesota. I did see that, and that's fucking disgusting, and everybody should be really pissed off about that. Alrighty, Gavin says, was opening the borders impeachable? Biden did not open the borders, Gavin. That is not accurate information. D. Scott says, why the mental spin on giving Maduro due process, but not those who are here legally? Interesting. I don't know what you're referring to, D. Scott. Are Republican politicians saying that they are going to be giving Maduro due process? I do find that to be interesting, how, for Maduro it's necessary, but for, random residents who are trying to come here the right way, it doesn't count at all. Dr. Fruit Snack says, do you agree we should defund ICE or cut their budget and put it into education and infrastructure? 100%. I haven't seen any reporting to suggest that, immigration and border enforcement cannot do the job that ICE is currently doing. I have seen a lot of evidence that ICE is acting like a rogue agency, and that they have been abusing their authority. And so, yeah, 100%. Defund ICE, put that money into education, infrastructure, healthcare, etc. The president has a pass. Says, what stage of the coup d'etat are we in? Let's say that there's 10 stages. I think we're probably in like 7 right now. Okay, The Wonder says, I feel like Maduro should be able to claim presidential immunity because he was president. So that's a really interesting point, The Wonder, but he stole the last election. Like, he was not duly elected. So it seems to me kind of a legal slam dunk to be like, well, you weren't actually the president of Venezuela. Min Cognito says, question, why is the U.S. threatening Greenland sovereignty if we have access to the country as an ally? For stupid reasons. Trump wants to be the emperor of the Western Hemisphere. He wants Greenland for, I don't know, strategic purposes so that we can park our boats there or some shit. It's just fucking stupid, man. It's so stupid. Trump wants to add territory to America so that it will say in the history books that Trump land is larger now than it was before Trump. Yeah. Sometimes the stupidity gets to me, guys. John Abbott says, as Jon Stewart said, the craziest thing about the Venezuela attack is that Maduro is the first person to get reverse ICE. That's very funny. Okay. Robas says, Maduro is in deal with Trump, bro. Chill. I don't know what that means. Dr. Fruit Snack says, shouldn't we just hire more border judges and reform the citizenship process? Yes, Dr. Fruit Snack, we should. You fucking nailed it. Donald Trump is doing the exact opposite of what a person would be doing if they actually wanted to solve this problem. He is making it impossible for people to come here the right way unless they are white and or rich. Seems like bullshit to me. Lindsay Reed, Triska V, Tank, thank you so much for helping me reach my 3rd finger hearts goal of the day. This is very exciting. We don't usually get here. Tyler says, open all borders, make everything USA. I don't agree with that. Lindsay Reed says, do you think he will go after Greenland? It seems likely. And unfortunately, the only thing that can stop him is us doing the work of stopping him. All right, we're going to do bigger flowers next. Flowers 2.0. Oh, Trisco wants to do donuts next. All right, yeah, let's see what we got here as far as donuts goes. Okay. Tom Aline says, hey, Joaquin Phoenix. Stop. You're going to make me blush. Okay. Donuts. Donuts are 30, though. I don't know if people are going to spend this many coins on me, but I do what Triska tells me to do. Dr. Fruit Snack says, do you see the parallels with Venezuela and the Iraq war with Bush? That was totally not for oil. 100%, Dr. Fruit Snack. Absolutely. Tyler says, opening all borders will solve all legal immigration problems. It will, but I wonder if there are knock-on problems that would be caused by removing all borders. That to me feels like more of a 100-year project as opposed to a 10-year project, Tyler. So, I think if the American people are going to be convinced to get rid of open borders, to get rid of all borders, I think first they need to be convinced that immigration is net positive. And I do not believe that Americans believe that at the moment. Okay, 312MQ says, do you think Europe will defend Greenland? That's what I heard. I don't know if all of Europe bands together, will they be able to defend Greenland against American annexation? I don't know if that's the case. I hope that they do. If for no other reason than to be a deterrent, like let's get some fucking European military in Greenland so that it's not just American military just waltzing in there with zero resistance whatsoever. Triska, LV, the Fixer Mike, and Tank. Thank you for helping me hit my donuts, guys. You're really making my day here, which helps because I seem to have a higher baseline for annoyance at the moment. John Bradley said, Paulie says that's because it's not a net positive. It is. Would you like to discuss why it is, Paulie? Tishy, stop. You're going to make me blush. John Bradley says, do you think that socialized medicine is feasible with open borders? It's so funny the way that these political conversations can spiral out of control. Like, we should be moving towards universal health care, and we should have a humane and fair immigration system where we hire more asylum judges and immigration judges, and also we work with the countries that the immigrants are coming from to fix the problems that are making the immigrants try to come over here. Like, that is all, steps 1 through 50 of what we need to be doing over the next 10 years. And so to ask about, do I think socialized medicine is feasible with open borders? You're asking me about something that is 100 years in the future and, 1,000 steps down the line. I'm not really sure, I'm not really sure if we can factor that sort of thing in, if people are going to start streaming over the border so that they can get free healthcare here in America. It's possible, I suppose, but we're also talking about things that are going to be happening in 2100 as opposed to things that will be happening in 2030. Oh, John Bradley says, which one would you like to see completed first? Universal healthcare, without a doubt, full stop. We should have had universal healthcare yesterday. And for every day that we do not have universal healthcare, it is costing Americans their lives, their time, their money. It is increasing Americans' suffering. Oh, JP, you're too sweet. All right, let's see. Back over to TikTok. The Fixer Mike says socialized medicine has worked everywhere, so we can be the first to mess it up. That's very funny. Phil says that doesn't seem to be an issue in Canada. Well, so first I would say that Canada does not have an open border with the United States. We're able to go over there if we show them our passports and shit like that. I do believe that there is some medical tourism that happens with Americans going to Canada, but I'm not really sure what those mechanisms are. Like, do you have to prove that you're a citizen before you can get access to that kind of healthcare in Canada? I have no idea. Okay. RJ Blend says, how do you think politics will move forward after the fatal shooting today in Minneapolis? Unfortunately, I think that what's going to happen, based after the ICE shooting is what always happens, which is the people that believe that what ICE is doing is wrong and illegal are going to be upset about it. And the people who defend ICE no matter what they do are going to lie about it or spread whatever misinformation they saw about it. And, are the squishy Republicans and independents and centrists going to be swayed by this? That's an open question. I've got no fucking idea. Every day that I see the Trump administration doing shit like this, I am stunned and shocked that there are people out there who have morals, who do not become radicalized by these events, and people that can still maintain to be centrists, or there's some good things, there's some bad things. It's just like I don't know how people don't see what's going on. Ready. Dr. Fruitstack says one issue that I feel like isn't talked about is minimum wage. We need to raise it to $20, $25. I agree with that. Hyphenated American says you have to be a resident of Canada for 6 months before you get free healthcare. Interesting. So then how does medical tourism work for people going to Canada? Does it even work? Is this a thing that doesn't exist that I have been lied to about? Okay, no intel gave great extra results. Says, okay, let's ask an important question. You as a dual citizen, which country you have citizenship to is more important to you? I am not a dual citizen, so I only have American citizenship. So not really sure what you mean by that. Ilmot says, I agree, and so does everyone. Obviously, that ICE shouldn't arrest randoms or shoot a random mother of two from Minnesota. And yes, Stephen Miller is corrupt, took lobbying money. All right. I'm glad that we agree on that, Ilmoth. Excellent. Okay. East Meets Westy Bessie says, Noam is claiming she tried to run over ICE agent and it is self-defense. Well, Christy Noam is a liar and she shoots dogs. Badger75 says, Kane Noam is already making up stories about the incident in Minneapolis. That all tracks, unfortunately. The Fixer Mike says, I'm presuming without evidence, but presume there are private practice doctors in Canada too. All right, yeah, maybe it's cheaper to go there. Dr. Fruitstock says, would it be awesome to see America invest in clean energy? We could be a powerhouse on green. It would be awesome, Dr. Fruitstack, and that's what was happening during the Biden administration. We did the largest investment in green energy in America's history. The Inflation Reduction Act was revitalizing small towns with renewable energy jobs that were safe and good paying. We were printing at one point a nuclear power plant's worth of solar panels a day in this country. And then what happened? How did we reward the Democratic Party for delivering us this incredible investment in our future economy and health? We voted them all out of office, basically. And we gave the presidency to the absolutely fucking worst possible person for progress on green technology. I don't know. Maybe if more people listen to me, that's the only thing that I can say, guys. No intel gave great extra results, says Berenstein, not a dual citizen. Sure, buddy. I see your anti-Semitic dog whistles. So congratulations. You are blocked. Okay, Daniel says, do you think there will be a second civil war? I'm skeptical. James says, how do you feel about New York? I love New York. I lived there for 20 years. One of my favorite places. Raul Edward Quinquero says, what do you think about the president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro? I don't know a ton about his politics and how he is running Colombia. I don't love that Trump seems to be trying to start a fight with him. So yeah, I'd love to have more information for you, but unfortunately, that's as far as I go. James says, how about the mayor of New York City? Mamdani's great. I sure hope that he's able to accomplish his goals. He is, what's the word I'm looking for? He's going to be, the billionaire class is going to try to torpedo him at every step of the way. And so when the billionaire class is successful in either delaying or stopping parts of his agenda, there are going to be all these think pieces that get written about the failed promise of Zohran Mamdani and democratic socialists. It's already started. Like there are three, I think he's been inaugurated. He's been mayor for like 3 days, and there are already op-eds that are like, Mamdani lied about free buses. The rent freeze is causing XYZ problems. It's already started. John Margalit says, why is Mamdani great? Be specific. Sure. So Mamdani is, there's a couple of different things that I would say make Mamdani great. He represents a younger, more energetic, diverse, and progressive style of politics that I feel like is is potentially very popular everywhere in America, even though it's going to be, slower to be brought into the mainstream in places like red states and purple states. So that's number one. We need to see the success of politicians like that. He's a great communicator. He seems to have a real knack for social media. So, I think he's great at expressing his ideas in debates and interviews and things like that. But more than that, he is focusing entirely on affordability in a time when we are having an unprecedented cost of living crisis. And so, where so many other politicians are hearing their constituents say that I can't afford to live in this country anymore, and what they are hearing in response is, well, I'm stopping, men from participating in women's sports, and I'm being mean to Somali immigrants. So that's what I'm doing to help you out. And Trump's building a fucking, ballroom for the White House and using taxpayer dollars to make oil billionaires richer and refit a fucking $400 million jet that he illegally got from the Qataris and enriching himself with fucking cryptocurrency bribes from who the fuck knows who. Mamdani is out there saying, I am going to try to do something to make it easier for you to live, to make it easier for you to afford to live in this great city. Because you are the people that make New York City great. It's because, listen, I lived in New York City for 20 years, and it became significantly less cool every year that I was there because it was getting more and more expensive and all the cool people had to fucking leave. So by the time I left there, it was the most expensive that it had been in New York since I lived there. And everything fucking sucked. Alrighty. Saint Tiger says, because of Democratic politics, that is inaccurate. Ask a question or I'm going to boot you. Derpatita says, wasn't it 7 or 8 million? Pretty sure when I checked it was 9 million. I'm not sure who you are responding to. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, you guys are talking about the anti-Semite in my Twitch chat. Interesting. Alrighty, let's get back to the TikTok comments. Saint Tiger says, who would you have to blame for the city sucking? Rich people. Bruh says, Democrats need to work on their messaging. Bruh, that's interesting. This is one of my hobby horses, is recognizing where we have this kind of like knee-jerk rhetoric around the Democratic Party and trying to decipher whether or not that's fair. Is it fair that Democrats have a reputation for being bad at messaging? Because you can show me examples of Democrats being bad at messaging, but I can show you just as many examples of Republicans being bad at messaging. So why do Democrats the only ones that have this stain on their reputation? I think number one, the electoral systems of this country make it easier for Republicans to win elections. And so when you win elections, everybody just decides that your messaging strategy was brilliant. And again, Republicans win elections because they have rigged our electoral processes to make it easier for them to win elections. So they are constantly being told that their messaging strategy is brilliant. And every time Democrats lose an election, then that's evidence that their messaging strategy sucks. And for some reason, every time Democrats win every time Democrats win elections, we never then go, oh, well, they had great messaging. Doesn't seem like we ever give Democrats credit or Republicans blame for anything. Similarly, there's a lot more money on the side of the Republican Party, so it's a lot easier for them to spread their messaging around. It's a lot easier for the Republican Party to coalesce around a single message because they're more of a monolith, where the Democratic Party is a big group made up of a bunch of little groups. We're a rainbow coalition party. There's way more money in spreading misinformation for Republicans through right-wing propaganda channels like Fox News and Breitbart and the Daily Wire and stuff like that. And where there should be some sort of like Democratic counterbalance to that, it doesn't really exist because mainstream media tends to overhype negative stories about the Democratic Party and underhype negative stories about the Republican Party so that they can appear to be non-biased. So yeah, there's all these things that make it harder for Democrats to do successful messaging and win elections. I think that that's evidence that their messaging is fine. And at times it's probably really good. Alrighty, Joe Padilla says, what did we gain from sending $40 billion to Argentina? As far as I can tell, exactly fucking zilch. Carmine says, what do we got to do so Dems get the opposites of Russian bots? What do we got to do so that Dems get the opposite of Russian bots? I mean, I think we need to be that, Carmine. We need to be the people that go out there and talk to people about how shitty the Republican Party is being and how better the Democratic Party is than people give it credit for. Dr. Fruit Snack says, we need to throw out Jeffries and Schumer. They don't do anything but give leverage to Trump. You know, Dr. Fruit Snack, I completely agree with you. I think that it is beyond time that we have needed to replace Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer as leaders of the party. But that being said, that is the perspective of a lot of people outside of politics. And it kind of seems like the people that are in politics think that they're doing a good job. Like even progressives within the Democratic Party in the House and the Senate, they seem to be giving flowers to Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer for some of their recent wins. And again, this is all like anecdotal. Like I'm just kind of like, picking up the vibes from the different politicians that I see giving statements on this. And it's not to say that I don't agree with you. I'm just saying that I think we all need a little humility in recognizing that we might not have all of the information about what's going on in our government. Like, we don't know what it's like to try to hold together a coalition in the Democratic Party when you have the African American caucus and the Latin American caucus and the Women's Caucus and the LGBTQIA caucus and the college educated caucus and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, the Jewish American caucus, et cetera, et cetera. John Margulies says, no shit, it's anecdotal. You're not stating any fact. Can you tell me one thing that hold on a second, bro, you said Mamdani is great when he's had zero track record because he's never had a job. All right, well, none of the things that I said, John, had to do with him having a job. So, it kind of seems like you're not here in good faith. So either ask a question or I'm going to boot you. Okay. Veed, good to see you again as well. Raul says, what do you think about the Senator Bernie Sanders? I like Bernie. I like him a lot. Let's see here. Andrew Detroit Williams says, why do people that say no king stick up for a dictator in Venezuela now? Andrew, are you still here? I would love to respond to that question. Let me know. St. Tiger says the new policies of the mayor of New York financially cannot work. First of all, that's not a question, St. Tiger. Ask a question or I'm going to boo you. Second of all, you don't know that. You think that, but you don't know that. And I can find you a ton of data to suggest that a more Keynesian approach to economics, like what Mamdani is proposing, can be wildly successful and have been in the past. The Fixer Mike says, imagine where we'd be if those 8 Democratic senators hadn't folded on the CR budget and stopped all of this. The Fixer Mike, it's interesting that you bring that up because one of the things that people are largely upset about the Trump administration for is the way that they have handled the e-files, if you know what I am referring to. And that would not have been possible if the shutdown had not ended. We would not have been able to pass the, Epstein Disclosure Act or whatever it was called if the and Mike Johnson hadn't sworn in that one representative from Arizona. Additionally, we have a shutdown fight coming up. So maybe this was a fucking 3-dimensional chess move. Maybe what they did was reopen the government, pass the Epstein Disclosure Act, and then get ready for another fucking shutdown fight in January. I don't know. I'm just saying, we can't all be confident about what are the correct moves in government because we're not there. We're not working there. Okay, bruh says, why do Republicans defend billionaires? Because billionaires are the entire reason why they have any political power. Billionaires give Republicans all of their political power by giving them massive campaign finance donations. And then Republicans turn around and cut taxes for billionaires in exchange for all that money. And then, they just repeat the cycle. Wait. Okay. Ilbot says, you must be fun at parties. What do they call you? Heimlich Lapdogger. Ilmoth, I feel like you're still talking to that dude. Didn't I block that guy? Could have sworn I blocked that guy. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. If any of my mods on Twitch, if that guy's not blocked on Twitch yet, go ahead and block that dude. you're there. Okay, back to the TikTok comments. Says Veed, I'm not necessarily against or pro removing Maduro. The pro side thinks this is over when it is not. Yes, completely agree. Let's see here. Matthew Swim says most billionaires are liberal, all but Elon. That is inaccurate. Matthew Swim, would you like to discuss that more? Because I am happy to give you some extra details about that. V says he's doing everything in the world to keep those files closed. That is accurate, and it is against the law. Dr. Fruit Snack says, how rich people paying 2% in taxes more, we can have so much more. That is accurate, Dr. Fruit Snacks. John Margalit says, yes, he knows it's never worked. Congratulations. I told you have to ask a question or you're going to get blocked. Then you didn't ask a question. Matthew Swim says, go for it. Name a few. Sure. Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, My Pillow guy, Elon Musk, Vladimir Putin. Yeah, 75% of all billionaires give political money to the Republican Party. So 75% of all political donations from billionaires go to Republican candidates. Matthew Swim, let me know what you think about that. Dr. Fruitnack says, so Zuckerberg is a liberal, huh? LOL. Yeah, he is 100% not. Willie, great to see you again. Do you think China will be in trouble in the 30s due to boomers retiring and one-child policy? Potentially. I think we're at a really weird place right now where populations are declining and the climate apocalypse is upon us, and jobs are being sucked up by artificial intelligence and mechanization. So it's like, I don't know, man. Doesn't seem like we're leaning into an era of stability going forward. JP says, I only see your restream bot from YouTube. Yeah. If anybody can let me know, is my anti-Semitic person on Twitch or YouTube or what? Because I blocked that dude, and yet people seem like they are still responding to them. Let's see here. Rick Wiley says, do you think Democrats will take the House and Senate? I don't know. Polling says that we have a good chance at the House and a marginal chance with the Senate. I say don't look for predictions, Rick. I say make the prediction come true. Do the work to actually affect the outcome that you want to happen. So I'm not really, paying attention to the polling. I'm just trying to get people out there and not only vote for Democrats in the midterms, but then get other people to vote for Democrats in the midterms too. Bruh says, will Republicans do anything about rising costs? No. Veed says, thoughts on Trump's statements about being impeached if they lose? I mean, it's accurate, but the thing that's inaccurate is he says they're gonna find some reason to impeach me, as though he has not done 1,000 impeachable things already. Steve Bannon going out there saying some of the people in this room are going to jail if Democrats take back power. And what they're trying to communicate is that the Democratic Party is going to use lawfare and shenanigans against them instead of the reality, which is that these people did crimes. And the only way there's going to be any accountability for those crimes is if we get them out of office and replace them with Democrats. Alrighty. Dr. Fruit Snack says, I feel like previous years Democrats never put as much importance on midterms than they should have. That's a really good point, Dr. Fruit Snack. And I think that this has to do with a general political ambivalence by the American people, as opposed to any screw up by the Democratic Party necessarily. And I know this because I was one of those people, like the Democratic Party won a massive mandate in 2008, a veto-proof majority, not a veto, a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate, a massive, seat majority in the House, and a Democratic president in 2008. And I was part of the coalition of people that did a lot of work to try to make that happen, and then thought the work was done. And I was like, all right, sweet, country fixed, everything's going to get great going forward. And I'm actually going to include the Obama administration in this because I've read a lot of books about what this was like. Everybody was shocked by how hard the billionaire class and the Republican Party decided to band together to torpedo the Obama administration. They had probably the strongest mandate since Reagan, and they were only able to get one piece of legislation past the finish line. And they only had that majority for about 8 months. and then America gave it all back to the Republican Party. Some of that was the billionaire class fucking with the Democratic Party and installing Republicans in exchange. But some of that was Americans like me just being like, all right, sweet. Yeah, that's done. How does politics work again? We were naive. All right, Magic Man says Democrats will do anything to win, including hurting Americans and Americans. This must stop. That is inaccurate, Magic Man. Ask a question or I'm going to boot you. Right. What's up, Marche Wiley? Basilic says, will the libs destroy us all? No. Anna Chavez says, did you hear about the death in Minnesota by ICE? What do you think? ICE is acting barbarically and illegally with zero oversight or accountability. It's disgusting that ICE has been doing shit like this to both American citizens, veterans, Native Americans, and people that have legal residence here, that people who are quote unquote trying to come here the right way are still being rounded up and detained and deported by ICE. And this is just another thing, this is another shitty thing, an escalation in ICE's war against the people who are living in America, be they legal residents or not. And I desperately hope that anybody who gives a shit about civil rights, not being murdered by fucking immigration and customs enforcement agents, I hope that you guys would be activated by this and start doing the work. Magic Man, all right, still waiting. Basilisk says, oh, forget it, you're brainwashed too. Well, that's a block. Congratulations. Jay Dizzy says, it was self-defense. Next time, follow a lawful order. Is that how you feel about Ashley Babbitt? Also, Jay Dizzy? Also, it was not self-defense. She was nowhere near him. Rick Wiley says, is it true that a lot of J6ers are ICE agents? So I have seen that sort of like bandied about on social media, but I have not seen any actual numbers or substantive reporting on that, Rick Wiley. It tracks, but I don't know for a fact if it is a fact. Thank you, Mincognito. I appreciate you. Brian Kinney says, what can you say about that Jack Smith testimony? It kind of confirms what I suspected, which was that Jack Smith had Trump dead to rights, and it was only because of Republican Party politicians and a Supreme Court that has been hijacked by the billionaire class and the Republican Party that Trump was able to skirt accountability for his crimes. Yeah, it all tracks. Jack Smith seems to me like a very competent and trustworthy legislator. I think he had him fucking nailed. And it is a massive disservice to citizens of this country that we did not get to see that trial, and we did not get to see that accountability for Trump and his acolytes. Ready, let's see here. G2G, deal with a kid. Oh, gotta go. Deal with the kid at school stuff. All right, thank you later, JP. Let's see here. John Abbott says there are 3,000 billionaires in the world, and most people might know the names of 10. That is accurate. JP says, I blocked the Twitch one already. Excellent. Alrighty. Republicans are paying Indians to chill themselves, so we could just hire Indians to post pro-democratic, anti-Republican truths. I'm not really sure what's going on over here on the Twitch and YouTube chat, so all right, Dallas says the Democrats have stole billions. That is inaccurate. Dallas says, shut up with your BS. Trump does not have any crimes. I think the Democrats have proven. No, Dallas, sorry about that, but you are out of here. Oh, PK Thunder says, how could anyone support MAGA at this point? I'm physically sick after watching that video. So PK Thunder, I completely agree with you. The issue, I think, is that there are a lot of people who are perfectly nice and perfectly reasonable who are just not getting the relevant information to show them how shitty of a job ICE is doing and how terrible they are being to people. So yeah, I don't think that we should just write these people off and assume that they are a lost cause. But I feel you. Like, I understand how frustrating it is that there are people who don't see this information. And so I would just say, like, let's be part of the coalition of people that brings this information out into the light. Like, let's do the work of informing people and recruiting people and convincing people. Oh, right. Rick Wiley says, do you think Merrick Garland sold the people out for not prosecuting Trump way before the 24 election? I don't think that he did it for money. I think he did it because he was scared. You know, I'm reading Injustice right now, which is kind of like an insider's tell-all about the Justice Department post January 6th, leading up to Trump's reelection. And it seems like, you know, Mueller and Wray and Garland and everybody sort of like in that camp, they got played, they got intimidated. You know, people that they thought were reasonable people on the other side of the aisle, like Bill Barr, just fucking stabbed them in the back time and time again. And I think that they were naive, and I think they were kind of weenies about it. But I don't think that there was any like malicious intent there. I think they were just like, "Whoa, what if people say we're being partisan?" Woo, shit like that. And I also think that Mueller was probably, you know, suffering from some age-related issues. Okay. Anna Chavez says, funny how Republicans just blame and take no responsibility. Accurate. Dr. Fruit Snack says, what are your thoughts on Trump and Lake Michigan? Could you have predicted that in the e-files? So I definitely could not have predicted that. I think it's worth mentioning that that is a non sort of like confirmed story about Donald Trump in the e-files. But, you know, there's so much circumstantial evidence. Like, it seems like there really is, there's a lot of smoke. So it seems like there might be fire, you know? Okay, Demo side. Thank you. I appreciate that. PK Thunders, at some point we can't keep forgiving ignorance. I completely understand that sort of like emotional foundation that you have there, PK Thunder. And I can't force anybody to have the kind of radical empathy that I think is going to be the best way to get us out of this. The only thing I can do is encourage people to do that. And so, you know, I would just say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do my best to continue having this radical empathy and continue talking to these people and continue trying to bring them into the light. You know, and in my darker moments, when it's just me and my wife hanging out at home, then I will curse their names to the high heavens. Let's see here. Bill Barr, Ilmoth. Sorry, if I said Bill Burr, I meant Bill Barr, everybody. But yeah, Bill Barr, the Attorney General during the last couple of months of the Trump administration. Okay, Dr. Fruit Snack says, why would someone lie about accusations that detailed? Dr. Fruit Snacks, I don't think that they lied, but they haven't been proven in a court of law. So I have seen all the evidence that I need to see to believe that Trump was intimately involved with all of the horrific shit that Epstein was doing. But I'm not the person that needs to be convinced. You know, a jury needs to be convinced. And until that happens, I can't come out here on social media and say this definitely happened or this definitely happened. Mean Incognito says, you did say Barr. Oh, so Ilmoth just fucking with me over on YouTube. Thank you. All right, everybody. Looks like things are slowing down here a little bit. Triton 777 says, I disagree. I think most of them get the information. They just don't care. I don't know what the percentages are there. I just find it hard to believe that there are that many shitty people in the world. I have a hard time believing that there are that many either racists or misogynists or billionaires who do not give a shit about people getting hurt so long as they make an extra buck. You know, I could be wrong. You know. Anyways, all right, I'm gonna start wrapping things up. Everybody, get your final questions in. Thank you so much for all of your support, everybody, all your questions, your comments, your gifts, your shares. I appreciate all the support that you guys give me, whether it is the free kind or the paid kind. My stand-up special called I'm Worried is going to be coming out on January 31st. There's going to be a premiere on YouTube, so please mark your calendars. Check out my website for more information on that. If you want to support the show financially, you can, but you don't have to. I know we're all struggling. You can join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You can buy things from my store on my website, and also you can send gifts and be super fans and subscribers on TikTok, Twitch, and YouTube. If you have Amazon Prime and you want a free way to support the show, subscribe to my Twitch channel using your Amazon Prime account. It costs you exactly $0 and it helps me out a ton. Any questions that I was not able to answer on this live stream or anything that comes up later, do not be shy about hitting me up. You can DM me, you can email me through my website, you can hit me up on my Discord channel. I want to be a resource for all of you to be better informed and more involved in politics. So if there's a way that I can do that, if there's a way that I can be that resource for you, I want to do it. So use me and abuse me, use me until you use me up. Discord is great. In addition to getting in touch, you can also form community with other people. And also, there are great recommendations there for books and podcasts and organizations that desperately need your time and energy and donations. And let's see here. Regular streaming schedule is Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. And lastly, I just hope that you will all do the work, because it is only us doing the work that will get us out of this fucking nightmare. Bruh says, because they're taught that Dems are the fault of their shortcomings. Interesting. Rick Wiley says, are you on Cash App? I am on Cash App. I think it's just my name, Jared Berenstein. But if you would like to just send me money instead of using the cute things that the apps do, and you can't find my Cash App, just send me a DM or send me an email or something, and I'll send you a link to that. Let's see here. And I appreciate all of you, everybody. So do the work. Be good to yourselves. Self-care is part of the work. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Hold on a second. East Meets Westy brought something up very specific. She says, you keep saying do the work, but you and others need to provide people specific actions. I completely agree with that, East Meets Westy Bestie. I used to have a speech that I would give on every show about what specific action people can do. And I've done it so many times that I feel like the regulars know it by heart. What I do instead is I try to direct people to my Discord channel where I have specific calls to action listed. And if you think that I can be more specific, or you think there's other things that I should be putting out there, let me know. I'm always open to suggestions. But just want to let people know that there is specific action that you can take outlined on my Discord channel if you don't know what to do. And if you don't know what to do, you can hit me up, and I will send you that information personally. All right, everybody. See you guys tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel. Take care, everybody. Bye bye. Goodbye. Goodbye.